Hi everyone, so we're going to be looking at how we can set up a project in Java. I'm going to be using IntelliJ, IntelliJ IDE, so you can get whatever IDE you'd like, but it'll probably be easier to follow along if you had the same one. So I'm going to open it up and create a new project here. And I'm going to select Java, and what I'll do is I'll just call it introduction. And location, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this on this location area. You'll see a folder, and what I'll do is I'll just select my desktop to directly put it there, and I'll just say OK. So I'm going to, let's see if it'll build a folder for me automatically, and I'll just leave it as IntelliJ. That's fine. Advanced settings doesn't matter. So I'll create it. There we go. It creates that folder there on the desktop, and then IntelliJ will open up the project automatically. And it's just going to take a few seconds for the initial load. So here we could see that it automatically sets up our Java for us. So we have the main. Main is going to be the most important when running your piece of code, because the main is essentially what you can run in order to see some sort of output, like in a terminal or somewhere. So here we got public class main, and I'll explain all these in detail in future videos. For now, I'm just going to keep it really simple. I'm just going to put this on its own line. So you can see here that we have this class called main. A class just essentially groups things together, or just like-minded things together. So you'll see later we'll create more classes that will group the code. It's just going to be a lot more efficient. And then here, this is the main. This main here is what actually runs the initial start of the code. So we're passing in some sort of string. You could pass in some sort of argument if you want. I'll get into this argument stuff later. For now, you just need to know that this is how the main method is set up. And then when I want to print something, it's just going to be system.out. So let's delete that line and I'll just type it out. So system dot, and you can see whenever I put a dot, you'll get some other methods that may be possible. I'll just put system dot out dot, and you can see it's trying to auto-complete it. If I just hit tab on my keyboard, it will automatically complete what was highlighted there. And I'll just say hello everyone, and then I'm going to save this. So there's different ways you can run this. You can set it up with, you can play with this play button right here, and then this menu pops up, and I can just run the code, or I can debug the code. So debugging is going to be very useful when your code gets extremely large. So let me first just run it normally. And when you run it, you'll see a terminal is going to show up here at the bottom. And you can see right here in our terminal, it says hello everyone. So that's one way of running it. You can also click this play button right here. If I click it again, it's just going to reload this area. And you see here it says build, which means it's just trying to build up all the code to allow the code to run on the machine. And you can see here it still outputs hello everyone. And then let's see what happens when we try to debug this. So maybe there's some sort of problem, and there's a problem right here at line 3. You can see it's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's very important to know where these numbers are because, maybe other team members will point out a specific line on the piece of code, or it's something you want to document. It's very important to have these. So I'm going to put this little dot. This dot means we want to debug this line, and you can see here that it turns red, which means it has some sort of breakpoint where when we run this with debug mode, it will stop at this line, and before it runs this actual line, it's going to stop, and then it's going to show you something down below, some sort of output of what's going on, if any. If there's not, it'll just be empty, but if there is something, you'll see it. So I'm going to hit this debug thing instead. So you'll see that symbol right there. It's going to run it and also debug at the same time. And here you could see there's some sort of argument, which is this argument that's being passed into the main. And we'll look more into what's being passed over a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to ignore that. If I look at this console, you can see there's some sort of address, transport, so it's trying to run something, and it's stuck here at this line. But you can see now this play button shows up. So if I click on, so there's different ways we could do it. We could run it, or what we could do is we could step over, or we could step into. So I'll just hit step over. Step over, and you can see here that it's just going to print out this line, and it's just showing us here then in the console that it has finished running this main code. So let's try doing something a little bit more complex where maybe we have some other method. So let's make something here. I'll just put it as private. I'll talk more about these public and private things a little bit later. I'll just make it private static int calculation. Okay, and so it's going to return some sort of integer. So right here, public just means that it's going to, this method right here can be seen by everyone or anything here in this project, but private means only everything in this class here, this class main contains everything. It will only be able to see this method. So if we make any other classes later, any other files with classes, it will not be able to call this method. So if I go right here and I do something like int val1 is equal to 2, and then int val2 is equal to 3, and then what I want to do is return val1 plus val2. And here in this method right here in the main, I could, let's say I want to call it, so it will be something like int total is equal to calculation. So if I just start typing, so I'll go back here and I just start typing cal, you can see that the IDE is smart enough to know that we're trying to type out something that already exists. So I'm going to click on that, and it will automatically finish. And then when I hit save, we want to actually be able to print out this total. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another system.out.println, and I'm going to print the total. So we want to see what exactly is the output of this calculation. So what it's going to do first is it's going to print hello everyone, and then it'll come to line 4, and then it's going to call this method called calculation, and the calculation is right down here, and it's going to do something inside of here, which is taking val1 and val2, and then it's going to add it together. And this int right here means that it's going to return some sort of integer. So that's why we have a return. So it's going to go back over here to line 4. It's going to store that value right over here, and then that's equal to total. So when we print out the total, we should see whatever the total is based on the calculation. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to keep that breakpoint right there because I want to show you what happens when I walk through each of the lines. So I'm going to hit that debug. So you can see here that there is some sort of pause right here. So it's stopped here at this line. You can see it's blue, it's highlighted. So we know that it's starting here. And what we want to do is we want to either go step over or step into. So let's do step over first. And then you can see here we're at line 4 now, but we want to go inside of this method calculation that it's calling. If we do the step over, it will just go to line 5. But what I want to do is I want to go step into, and you can see here it jumps now to line 9. So it's reading this line right here, integer val1 is equal to 2, and then I can do another step over to the next line, step over, and you can see here it's doing a return of val1 plus val2, and you can see here in the threads available it's telling you what's happening as well. And you can see in the console, it already printed out hello everyone because we are now in the process of the calculation now. And right now, since we're at the return, we could just do a step over. And it's going to go back to this line, line 4. And let's take a look here. If we go to step over, and you can see here the threads available. It's already saving that value of 5 in the thread. In the console, we have not printed out anything, but the computer in the back end knows that we have saved this value, this addition value, and it knows that it can use that total now somewhere. So if I try to click on this step over again, now that it's at the end of main, we should have printed out this line. If I go console, you can see here I have 5. So let me try doing this one more time. I'm going to restart, stop, and rerun. So let's try doing something else now. So here we're starting at line 3, right? There is nothing printed yet. And if I try to go step over, we're at line 4 now. It already printed hello everyone. But now instead of doing what we did before, which is step into, let's say we don't want to know what's going on in this method. We just want to skip and just go directly to the next line of this main method. So what I could do is I could just do a step over, and you can see here it skips wherever it needs to go to, and then it's just going to go to the next line. So we already know what the total is now right away. And if I go to threads available, threads and variables that are available, you can see here that there's a total of 5. And then I try to go to the next line, step over again. It's the end of the method, the main method. So if I go console, you can see now I see the number 5.